Hey, how's it going, everybody? So we're back with another video. We're going to be talking the top 25 80s movies. This is my list, so my list might be different from yours. But the reason we're making this video is because Tim talks Talkies. Yep, I'll try and leave his link down below, or maybe I'll put it up here somewhere, but I'll put it somewhere at least. So that way you can go check out his main video. Basically what he does is he kind of gets a community list from everybody. So I believe he did the 90s last month. I didn't partake, I just was late to the party. Honestly, I'm a little late to this party because the deadline is the 31st at midnight, and this is probably going to go out a couple days before that. But either way, we're going to get in my top 25 of the 1980s. Again, like I said, my list is probably going to differ from yours. But before we get into that list real quick though, I have to show off the shirt that I'm wearing because this is just absolutely amazing. But I got a Zombie Fright Crate box, I think last week or 2 weeks ago or something like that, and I just have to show it off. I mean, it's Evil Dead Rises. It looks fantastic. So, you know, not a paid advertising or anything like that. They don't sponsor me. They don't, none of that. But go buy their stuff because their shirts are awesome. You get great autographs. I have actually a TikTok of some of their autographs that are, I just kind of did an organization. Whatever. Let's get to the top 25 1980 movies. So of course I have my list right here on my phone. I just didn't want to remember 25 movies. And you know what we're going to do basically, I have them all back here somewhere, but I really didn't want to pull out 25 movies just to have to put them right back. So I'm going to put the movie poster up here or over here somewhere. But let's just get started. Enough talking. So first up is going to be Little Monsters. I love this movie. I mean, I grew up on this movie. I can't lie, it scared the hell out of me when I was a kid. Because, you know, monsters underneath your bed, there's a whole other world that opens up. But, I mean, Howie Mandel, Fred Savage, Ben Savage, like, it's just a cool movie, especially watching it now as an older like, it still holds up. Like, it's still creepy and eerie. Like, it's still kind of scary, but then, you know, it's fun. It's a fun movie overall. Next up, 24 on my list is going to be Monster Squad. So basically, Monster Squad is Goonies fighting Universal Monsters. I mean, that's really kind of what it boils down to. It's really just a fun overall movie. Good practical effects. I mean, the Wolfman's got nards. Like, if you've seen the movie, you're getting that. You're understanding what that reference is. If you haven't seen the movie, go see the movie. At 23, it's going to be The Outsiders. So I feel like anybody who is anybody has watched The Outsiders, you know, in middle school or high school. I feel like that was just the thing for at least my high school, I guess. Maybe not everybody else's, but this movie, greasers against the preps, you know, it's got a who's who of actors in this movie. And then basically in the 80s and also up and coming, because some of these actors weren't as big as they are now or whatever. But phenomenal movie. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. Stay golden, pony boy. At 22, this might ruffle some feathers, but I have Temple of Doom. This was my least favorite of the trilogy. I will say this, don't attack me, but the Indiana Jones trilogy overall, phenomenal. It can almost not be touched. But this is my least favorite. I never was a huge fan of, you know, his female sidekick was just annoying. And also, too, not to mention, I was still younger when I watched this movie, and it scared me a little bit. It was a lot more violent and had scary overtones than really any of the other Indiana Jones movies for the most part. So this was more of like I don't know if I want to watch a guy get his heart ripped out, you know, at age, I can't remember when I watched this, maybe 10, somewhere around there. So that's why it's lower. Don't attack me. At 21, we're going to have A Princess Bride. Of course, this could be way higher on other people's lists. Again, this is just mine. I love this movie, but I love all of these movies, honestly, on my top 25. But I'm going to butcher it, but anybody want a peanut? You know, I love the movie. I love the movie, okay? Top 25, I love all of these movies. Don't hate me. Number 20 on my list is going to be Clue. I mean, I feel like it stayed as faithful to a board game as you really can stay faithful to a board game. But either way, I mean, Tim Curry just absolutely nails this role and just kills this movie. Like, the main reason this is a great movie is because Tim Curry. Especially, not to mention, if you saw it in theaters, which unfortunately I did not, but if you saw it in theaters, there were 3 different endings, and each movie or each showing got a different ending. So really, one theater got a different showing and got a different ending from another theater. So it was just cool to like, oh man, you know, this was the ending. Like, no, it wasn't. Like, this was the ending. And it's just cool to have those. If you have it on Blu-ray, if you own the movie, of course you get to see like, oh, could have been this, or did this happen? And then they show every single ending. But either way, fantastic movie. Next up at 19, it's going to be Coming to America. I feel like this is one of Eddie Murphy's top, if not funniest movies, at least to me. I know he's got a lot of good movies and he's got a lot of funny movies, and you know, it's Eddie Murphy. The 1980s were basically his. You know, he had a million movies, it seemed like, that came out in the 1980s, 1990s, and so on. But Coming to America, I think, is one of the top. Coming in at number 18, it's going to be Predator. Of course, I know, I get it, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Predator. This movie is great. It's one of the best action movies of all time. I mean, you really just have a ragtag bunch of people fighting an alien out in the jungle. What more do you want? Number 17, of course, we have Evil Dead 2. I just feel like this is the far superior movie from the first Evil Dead. Bruce Campbell hamming it up as Ash, like, everything's great, especially too when you have the camera following him through the hallways and you can see that the roof or like the ceiling's gone and it's just like kind of rafters that are built on a stage, which, you know, they didn't have a lot of money and they kind of had to do what they had to do. So I mean, it was still great. And of course they got a bigger budget for this, so they kind of picked what they liked from Evil Dead and kind of ran with that for Evil Dead 2. So it's kind of like an Evil Dead 1.0 almost-ish, like it's a remake but not a remake kind of thing. Number 16, of course, we have Karate Kid. I feel like just this movie, the trilogy is pretty solid. Of course, the first one is really where it's at. That's the best one. But, you know, you have the illegal crane kick or the regular crane kick, depending on if you're Cobra Kai or not. And then, of course, this spawned a huge YouTube TV series at first, and then Netflix, of course, bought it out, and they're doing it now. So, and then that show too is just huge. So, it's a good movie. Watch it if you haven't seen it. Number 15 is going to be They Live. Really, this is one of my favorite John Carpenter movies. I know you'll see another John Carpenter movie up on this list a little down the line, but They Live, I think it's just so good. I mean, it's really what in that movie, what happened is kind of almost what's happening today regardless. So, you know, you have consumerism, you know, you just have to buy. I mean, I don't really do a good job with Behind Me and all the movies, and of course I just buy because I like movies, but I just love the tone of the movie. I love the score. I mean, we all know John Carpenter, for the most part, does all of his scores. So, overall, They Live, great movie. Number 14, we have The Shining. I'm a huge Stephen King fan, and I get it. For the most part, he didn't like this movie. I think he changed his mind a little bit, but he really did not like what Stanley Kubrick did to his book. And if you've read the book is a lot. It's kind of similar, but I know Stanley Kubrick took a lot of kind of details and ran with some things that aren't in the book, or, you know, there's different things here and there that Stanley Kubrick just thought would look better in a movie, and it did. I mean, The Shining is a fantastic movie. Yes, it's different from the book, but for the most part, I mean, I absolutely love it. The ending is different. I won't get into the ending. I don't want to spoil the book or the movie, but of course, it's a movie. It's gonna be a little bit different from the book. You can't go word for word from the book. Then it just gets boring. But either way, the score, the cinematography with Stanley Kubrick, it's Stanley Kubrick. What do you expect? Number 13 is going to be Beetlejuice. I mean, Michael Keaton, Winona Ryder, Catherine O'Hara, Gina Davis, Alec Baldwin. The list goes on and on. This movie is great. It's fun. It's got a cool dance number kind of at the later end of the movie, and they're making a Beetlejuice 2. I don't really know how well it's going to be, but I mean, Michael Keaton's come back as Beetlejuice, so I'm on board. Alright, number 12 is going to be Goonies. I know my buddy might be mad at me because he absolutely loves the Goonies, so he probably thinks it should be higher. You know, it really could be. I mean, the Goonies is just a fun movie overall. It's a great adventure. You know, if you're a kid and you're watching this, you literally are thinking to yourself, you know, I could probably go find some buried treasure. Why not? I mean, me and my buddies down here, we'll save the Goonies and we'll be good. Alright, next up is going to be, at 11, Aliens. So, of course, you might be saying, oh, wow, Aliens? Are you kidding me? That's only at 11. It's my list. You make a list and get it on over to him and bam, we'll be good. But either way, I mean, James Cameron, it kind of turned it into an all-out action movie as opposed to the first one, which is more of like a horror suspense thriller-ish type of movie. But I mean, the action's over the top. I mean, everybody in this movie is great. I mean, watch the movie. Number 10 is near and dear to my heart. It's CREEPSHOW. I have the comic right over here, graded already. I have just a regular comic of it so I can read it. I have the 4K movie. I have the random, you know, I guess not random, but Shout Factory, Scream Factory box set as well. I absolutely love this movie. I love CREEPSHOW 1 and 2, and not to mention the TV series. But we're not talking about those. We're talking about the one that came out in 1980. I mean, Tom Savini, George Romero, Stephen King. What more do you want? I mean, practical effects, EC Comics. Like, there are so many good actors in this movie. I don't know how they did it, but they got it done, and it's great. It's a great movie. Overall, best horror anthology movie, hands down. So you should definitely go watch it. And at number 9, I told you he'd be back. John Carpenter's The Thing. This is really just regarded as his best movie overall, which a lot of people aren't wrong. This movie is phenomenal. I mean, They Live is probably my favorite John Carpenter movie for the most part, but They Live, you can't argue that it's a fantastic movie. I mean, it leaves you basically feeling, oh, I can't trust anybody. I feel alone. And the practical effects in this movie are hands down, almost nothing can touch it. It looks great. Still to this day. Number 8 is the Ghostbusters. I mean, it's the Ghostbusters. Do I need to talk about the Ghostbusters, really? I mean, you've seen Ghostbusters. Don't act like you haven't. It's a phenomenal movie. Number 7 is going to be Back to the Future 2. As a kid, I loved this movie. Honestly, I watched this more than the first and the third one just because I love seeing like the futuristic look of it. I love that they went into the future and then they go back to the past to fix their current time as well. Like, this movie overall, as a child, as a kid growing up, I just adored this movie. But of course, now that I'm older, I can kind of see that the first one's better. But still, this holds a place in my heart. I absolutely love Back to the Future 2. Number 6 is going to be E.T. I mean, come on. Steven Spielberg, basically in his prime through the entire... I mean, Steven Spielberg ran the 80s and 90s when it came to movies. I mean, it's insane how many movies he did and how many just blockbuster hit after hit after hit that he had or that he helped produce. But come on now. You like E.T. And if you don't like E.T., I think you're just mad about it that you like it so much. Number 5 is going to be Lost Boys. This movie is just a great adventure, and it's got vampires. I mean, you have the Coreys. That's all you need, really, especially in the 80s. But it's got vampires. It's scary. It's got a great saxophone. He's banging it the entire time for a solid probably 5 minutes. I mean, you still believe. Number 4, of course, is my boy Freddy, Nightmare on Elm Street, the original. I love this movie. This was one of the first, if not, I believe, probably the first horror movie that I ever saw. Scared the hell out of me as a kid, but I loved it. I love the series. I don't care if they got terrible. I mean, the remake, we're not going to talk about the remake, but later down the line, Freddy's dead. Everything about Freddy, I just love. I love all of the movies, so you should watch it. I mean, if you like horror movies, you probably have watched Freddy Krueger at least once or twice because he's a horror icon. Number 3, Raiders of the Lost Ark. This is just it's a great movie. It's one of the best movies ever made. One of them, but not the best. At least to me, I think this is probably better than The Last Crusade. But again, me being, a kid growing up watching Indiana Jones, I just loved one movie a little more than this one. I mean, Raiders of the Lost Ark, you're fighting Nazis. What do you expect? That's a great movie overall. It's a great premise. I mean, and Indiana Jones is literally iconic. You can't fight with him. And with that being said, number 2 is going to be Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Again, Raiders is probably a better movie overall. I mean, I wouldn't argue that at all. But, this is my list. And I just grew up on the Last Crusade. Seeing the Holy Grail. Sean Connery brings a whole new dynamic to this movie that the other 2 movies that just didn't have. Sean Connery is great in this movie. I mean, it's just a great ride. I mean, what do you expect? He's fighting Nazis again. And of course, without further ado, number 1 is Back to the Future. Plain and simple. If you don't have Back to the Future as your number 1, you might be wrong. No, I'm just kidding. But Back to the Future, without a doubt, is, at least to me, a perfect movie. I absolutely love Back to the Future. I have multiple copies back here. I have, the scores on vinyl. I love all of the Back to the Futures, but Back to the Future, the original, the first, is just a phenomenal movie. What Steven Spielberg and Robert Zemeckis did, Alan Silvestri's score, Michael J. Fox, you name it, this movie had it. This movie is fantastic. Not to mention knowing the backstory of Michael J. Fox, where he's basically doing a TV show and then doing this movie and then basically sleeping for 3 hours, and it's just a rinse repeat until this movie got over with. I mean, come on. The guy's a legend. Michael J. Fox is amazing. Christopher Lloyd is Doc. I mean, everybody in this movie puts a great performance in. I mean, come on. If you don't love this movie, then I don't know. I don't know if you can be saved. But either way, that is my top 25 1980 movies. Do you agree? Do you not agree? Let me know down here in the comment section. What is your top 25? List them out. Get crazy with it. Send Tim a list of your top 25. He'll put it in the community list as well. Kind of get that going. Get crazy. But either way, like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, do all that fun stuff. You're helping me out. We're getting closer to a giveaway. And we will see you guys in another video.